So how many of you have experienced something absolutely insane or amazing, but kept it completely to yourself? So a few years ago, I was sitting on my couch watching my favorite TV show, Prison Break. I remember it being so exciting, there was so much action, I was on the edge of my seat just waiting to see what would happen next. And I remember being so drawn in that I'd forgotten to eat that day. So I was like, what do? I'm so hungry, and I was really craving a burger. So I was like, hey, I'll just go to McDonald's. So I go put on a jacket, I grab my car keys, and I drive off. So I leave my driveway and I'm driving for a couple of minutes, and I see the golden M in the sky, and I get so excited because I'm like, here we go, McDonald's, here I am. So I pull in the driveway, I make my order, I grab my card, I give it a tap, grab my stuff, and I start driving back home. So I rush back home, I throw my shoes in the air, one goes in the kitchen, one goes in the dining room, probably landed on the dining table, I don't know. I flop on the couch, put my TV show back on, and here I am, holding a Big Mac. So I bring it up to my face and I take a big bite. And in that moment, it felt like the whole world had stopped. There was this fusion of different ingredients coming together in harmony to create this beautiful Big Mac that I was now sitting down and enjoying. 2 minutes later, I look at my empty box and I'm like, oh man, I wish I got another one. So here's the thing. I think we're in this culture that's a go get what you want kind of culture. It's a culture that promotes instant gratification. Because if I'm hungry, I can run to the freezer, grab a pizza pocket, put it in the microwave, in 2 seconds it's done. Or I'm craving Chinese takeout, boom, I get in my car, I'm down the street, get my food, and I'm back home. Feeling lazy, just want something to binge, go on Netflix and I can spend 26 hours on it. We're in a get what you want culture, and it has taken out the waiting. But here's the thing, when it comes to your faith takes effort and time. So here's some stats. Half of millennials, that's the 18 to 35 generation, the ones who are now bearing children, have already left the church. So those who were raised in the church have already dropped their identity. And 41% of those who remain are thinking about the possibility of leaving. So most people think about this for about a year or two before they actually think about leaving. They do it in stages. Right now we have people in our communities, people in our churches, in our pews who are thinking, is this a waste of my time? Is this really what I want to do? Is this something I really want to invest in? Should I keep doing this or should I try something new? Right now we presume and continue to presume by practice that if your body was here, your head was here also. A lot of people who are physically present are wrestling internally, and we need to be aware of that as well. So what does it mean to share the faith? The way to lead a soul to Christ is to take him by the hand and lead him. Anyone who has been baptized and who is living in a personal relationship with Jesus is ready to be a mentor to somebody else who needs to be loved, guided, evangelized, challenged, and encouraged. Here's the thing, before we can translate the truth of God to our generation, we need to understand what we're up against. We can't just simply think of the message. We got to think about the medium. We need to think about how we can articulate the message and realize what we're really up against. So here's a scenario you might be familiar with. Your younger sister or brother walks into your room and you're blaring music, minding your own business, and of course they have a question for you. Do you think they'd come in and speak with a normal voice? Absolutely not. There's no chance that you'd be able to hear them. So they might start screaming at the top of their lungs, and that's pretty annoying. Or they can come and eliminate the sound, which can also be pretty annoying. So what do you do first? You go to eliminate the noise. Then you communicate. So when we're communicating the faith, we need to understand if there's noise, sometimes that means literal noise. And sometimes it means if the person you're speaking with is deafened by sin or brokenness or hurt, we have to realize that no matter how truthful the seed of truth is, if the soil of their heart is not treated properly, we're going to be wasting a lot of seed. We need to spend time preparing the soil. We need to spend more time appealing to the heart. You know, St. Paul said, if I speak in angelic tongues, yet don't have love, then I am nothing. You can have all these beautiful ways to say things and have these amazing theological insights to bring into a conversation. But simply put, if a person doesn't genuinely feel loved or believe that you care for their soul or winning the fight, the debate, the argument, nothing you can ever say to them will reach their heart. I've heard this said before, People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Sharing your faith needs to be more than what you just say to people. You share your faith by the way you live your life. You know, for most of us, we think, oh, Sunday is God's day and the rest of the week is fair game, it's mine. We go to Sunday school, we go to youth group, we volunteer in youth ministry, we go to church on Sunday, we say grace as a family, making the sign of the cross. But are we actually showing that with our actions and our deeds? Do our words have actual meaning, actual purpose? So where do we find the courage in these circumstances to live a life that fully shows the love of Jesus Christ? We do this with the gift of His Holy Spirit. We were given the Spirit, one person of the Trinity, to dwell in us, to be God living in us. One of the most powerful ways that God can speak to us is through the Spirit. Some may call it God's whispers, or others say it's God's still small voice. God's Spirit speaks to us through our conscience, helping us to make the right decision. You know, a few years ago, I was sitting on a plane, I was heading to Ottawa, and like most people, that time on your flight is often your quiet time. So I got all situated and I sat down and I noticed there was a seat that was empty next to me. So in the distance, I see this old lady walking towards me, saying something under her breath. And the whole time I'm thinking, God, any seat but the seat next to me. So she gets to my row and she sits right next to me. So I'm thinking, okay, it's not too bad. I'll just mind my own business and hopefully she will too. So a few minutes after the plane had taken off, this lady had noticed that I was wearing a cross necklace, and so she nudges me. So here I am feeling pretty bothered, and I take off my headphones and I'm like, hey, like, what's up? And she's like, oh, I noticed you have a cross. Are you a Christian? And at that moment I was like, oh no, here we go. And I was like, yeah, like I am a Christian. And I kind of left it at that. I realized in that moment that I could have said much more, but I chose not to. So I put my headphones back on and I keep doing my thing. 5 minutes go by and again she starts nudging me. And I'm like, oh no, here we go again. And she's like, do you believe that God really exists? And again, I'm thinking, oh, I really don't want to have this conversation right now. So I say a few words and I put my headphones back on and I keep doing my thing. A little while goes by and I have this sense of like, Dan, you could have said a lot more. Why didn't you? And quite honestly, I was just afraid. I was afraid that I'd be judged, that she would judge me and I would have to sit by her for the next 30-40 minutes of the flight. So a few minutes go by again and there's a nudge and I'm like, all I want to say is like, leave me alone. But I look at her lovingly. So then 30 minutes go by and she's just telling me her whole life story. And the whole time I'm thinking, why God? Why me? I could have been having some quiet time to myself. I could be praying right now, but no, I'm listening to this lady and her life story. So the flight eventually lands and we're about to leave. And she turns to me right before leaving the aircraft and says, you know what? Thank you. I really needed that. And I was like, wow, if those 40 minutes that I thought I'd wasted brought joy and love to this lady's heart, then so be it. I remember walking away from the situation thinking, I could have very easily said, hey, I don't want to be disturbed right now. But instead, something was compelling me to listen to her story. But here's the thing, quite often, it starts with us taking the time to quieten our hearts so that we can actually hear God nudging and directing us to someone or something. I've heard it said that you might be the only Jesus someone ever sees. And there's so much truth in that. Often we have people in our lives, people around us, that we completely walk by because we're so bombarded by the noisiness of our lives, that we're so caught up in what we want, that we're failing to recognize that Jesus might be nudging us saying, hey, go talk to that person. So I want to leave you with a challenge. I want to challenge you this week to spend 5 more minutes in prayer, 5 more minutes in silence, so that the next time Jesus nudges you saying, tend my flock, tend my sheep, care for my daughter, care for my son, you'd be more open, you'd be ready and willing to respond to his call that he has placed in your heart for the people around you. May God bless you. I'm praying for you. I pray that God may give you the strength and the courage to, first of all, quieten your heart in moments of busyness, in moments of stress. And secondly, to give you the strength and the courage to go out when he does nudge you, to be his hands, his feet, to be his voice, to be his joy in the world around you.